You are here listening to Her Red Boots podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Gore, here to share my heart with you. Let's do this.
Welcome back, friends. I'm so glad you're joining me. I am excited for what God is doing. He is very present and He is doing good things today. And so I'm going to just open with prayer. God, I thank you that you are real, that you're a living God, that you're ample in power and your supply of power is in abundance. That you move and the knowledge you have is unsearchable and it's wonderful and you are mighty to save. And so we just boldly come before you today and we ask God that you would move in our lives, that you would help us, that you would tend to us, and that you would bless my friends in the name of Jesus. Amen. God is so good. And so I just want to jump into this story. There's a story in 2 Kings 19. You can actually look in Isaiah 37 and 38. And the same story is in 2 Chronicles 32. And it's one of the kings of Judah. And so his name was King Hezekiah. And he was reigning in that time. And God was doing some different things in his life. And as I was reading through his story, because I was like reading through the kings, and this one did this, and this one did that, and this one, like I kept seeing there's a significant amount of God revealing time. And how many of you ever feel like you're late? You're just, like time is, you wasted too much time, or you don't have enough time, or you feel like every time you do anything, there isn't ample time or this or that. Like time, it sometimes feels like such a barrier and you can become enslaved to time and this and that. And there's just some things about time that I know one thing is we don't really love to wait. We don't. Like waiting is like probably my least favorite thing. No, I'm just kidding. It is very easy to be like, hurry up, God, like, when are we going to get there? Like, you get anxious and you get nervous and you like, is this ever going to happen? And the promises of God that you're waiting upon and you're waiting and all of those things. And so when you look into like this story of King Hezekiah, God's revealing himself. He's revealing that he has an understanding that's beyond ours, that isn't subject to time. And yet he speaks to us in a matter of time. And so what's happening in their world is they've come in a great opposition. They're standing in the midst of Judah. They're surrounded. They're surrounded by an incredibly intense army. It's 185,000 men. Like, come on. Like, have you ever been in a room with that many men and that many people? And yet it's overwhelming because they know they can't win. And so there's something coming against them. And that sometimes happens in our lives when something is coming against us and there's no way that we can actually win. Like we feel helpless in those situations. We feel like, what are we going to even do? And that's hard. That's really challenging. And if you're facing a situation where like you're going to feel like I'm like, God has got to do something or whatever. Like this is going to go south fast if God doesn't do something. And we find ourselves feeling that way. And I imagine they felt like that. And there was a lot of jeering from that whole people group and a lot of things being said. They even sent a letter and they brought the letter before the Lord. And so King Hezekiah, and why I said it's in Isaiah is because Isaiah was walking around with them. God was using him as a prophet during that time in his life. And he sat next to these kings and he would prophesy things to the people and to the kings. And he actually prophesied, like, I think a couple generations before Hezekiah about the virgin birth of Jesus to King Ahaz. And so you can see God moving through Isaiah's life. And so they bring the workings of this letter to the Lord and say, and crying out, God, I don't know what we're going to do. what can we do? There's like nothing we can do. Like, what do we do here? And if you're sitting in those spaces and you're bringing it before the Lord, know the Lord has an answer. He already has an answer before you have ever even asked. He already has a way made that even seems impossible. And so when the Lord brings the word through Isaiah to the people, it's in 2 Kings 19, and he actually speaks to the people, and he tells them, look, this is what's going to go down year 1. This is year 2. This is year 3. And I'm like, what's he talking about? Like, we're talking about an army out there, and God's handling some things in our lives and telling us where we're headed. And maybe you feel like that. You're like, you bring something to the Lord and you're like, I'm looking for the Lord to answer this. And he's talking to me about that. That happened to me one time. I brought an issue of my back to the Lord. It was bothering me. It was hurting. I went up for prayer at church, and I brought it to the Lord. I'm like, look, this is like, I just want you to heal my back, And he's talking to me about something else. And I'm like, and I get all frustrated. I'm like, I came up here to have you heal my back, and you're asking me about that. And then I walked away and had to deal with myself. But in that moment, I realized that God has, that must be handled if God's talking to me about something else. And surely sometimes we have to see that God's seen the overview picture, that God is actually a God that can answer you within years. Like, he can give you years out there, not just the moment. He's not just handling every moment and everything by the whim of this. Like, he has orchestrated plans, purposes, fashions. He knows how to cross your path with the right person at the right time. He knows how to make you stand in the room with the right person at the right moment. And even if you feel in delay, he knows how to seamlessly work it with wonders and mighty, and do it mightily. And so he's talking to them about that when they're like, we're just trying to like live through the next day. And he's like, no, I want you to be thinking about the years ahead and what I'm going to be doing. Because he's talking about them prospering and eating of the land. And then after that, the Lord does. He handles. He says, look, I've got the enemy handled. He's like, I'll handle it. You want to know how cool God is and how he handles business? When they woke up the next morning, and I want you to consider this sometimes when you're going to bed at night and you have all the worries and all the cares that you think I can't figure out, and you're like not sleeping because you're trying to figure it out. Just put them in the hands of the Lord, because he can do mighty things. And in the midst of their sleeping, he sent an angel on assignment and wiped out 185,000 people. When they woke up, there was a whole bunch of dead people outside of the gates. That's insane. That's actually absolutely like, wait, what just happened? And you serve a God that you could stand in awe of him, that you should stand in awe of him, that he can do things that you couldn't even imagine. They're trying to figure out how to gain their strength and figure out where all the swords are going to come from. And he's like, look, I'm going to send an angel and I can do that. And God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above what you could think or imagine. He is working his will and his good pleasure in our lives. He can do things. So talking to him about the moments, but trusting him. So when you go to Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, it says to trust in the Lord with all of your heart. That's a command. That's a strong statement that we should say, you know what? My heart will trust in the Lord. I'm going to anchor into that. And then it goes on. It says, in all your ways. No, sorry, I jumped ahead on that verse. It says, and do not. Maybe you need to tell yourself, do not lean on your own understanding. And that's where it sometimes is challenging, because we are like, I know this and this and this and this, and I don't see how. And he's saying, don't lean on that. Like, lean wholly into the Lord. Lean with everything you've got into what God is able to do. And he's giving us these pictures through other people's lives of what he's capable of. What they're not capable of, but what he can do. And so you keep moving through Hezekiah's life, and you're seeing that God's revealing certain things about who he is, and that he's the God that sees in years and handles moments. But King Hezekiah gets sick, and he's on his deathbed, and Isaiah, there he is again. He's walking into the room, and he's like, look, I've been sent. God said to put your things in order. You're going to die from this. I don't know if I'd ever like that. That word from the Lord. And so Isaiah was like, all right, buddy, I'm going to head out of here. And so he leaves, and King Hezekiah turns his face towards the wall, and he starts praying, and he starts interceding and saying, God, look, this is what's happening. He's weeping before the Lord. And before Isaiah leaves the place completely, he's in the outside in the courtyard. God stops him in his tracks, says, go back. I have another word for King Hezekiah. And he goes back and he said, the Lord said he'll give you 15 years. And what a powerful moment of a fast, suddenly answered a prayer. Like, God, you're going to do this. And he said, in 3 days, you're going to rise up from this place, this sick bed of yours, and you'll enter into the temple. And he gives him specific instructions. Well, the king was like, well, I need a sign. Like, that's like a big difference. Like, you were just saying this and now you're saying something completely opposite. And in the midst of that, like, God offers him a sign. He's like, well, you can have the sundial, which, the king that I was talking about before that got prophesied to by Isaiah about the virgin birth and that he would come. That king built this like stairs and this sundial system. And he said, I can move it back 10 steps or forward 10 steps, you choose. And the king, he was like, well, it's easy to go forward, which I don't understand that. That to me is mind blowing because like time, we like the thought that we can hurry time or slow time. Like we would love to have that kind of control, or to rewind time, to go back in time, to redo that because that was terrible and I wouldn't want to have that happen. And so let's go fix that. Like, man, I just ran into a deer and now I really wish I could go back in time. Like, we would like all of that to like happen, and we have no ability to change the time. And so when God's offering him a sign, that's absolutely wild. As I studied it, the steps, it's kind of a little bit unknown of how much time that was. It was either between 40 and 50 minutes, or it was between 5 and 6 hours. Regardless, that's like absolutely astounding. And as I was considering this and I was thinking about it, I was like, God, how in the world did you do that? Like, what did that look like? And even when, because just right this last couple weeks, we had astronauts going up into space, and they sent pictures of what the Earth looked like. I mean, it's absolutely stunning from space. And then you see them in space, you see their trail of how they went around the moon and how many miles it was to the moon, like thousands of miles to the moon. That sometimes like those things are absolutely like, my mind is like, whoa, that's so huge. It's fascinating. And then we had people like living on the earth go into space and do this and then be able to come back into the Earth's atmosphere. And that's powerful within itself. But none of the people, like all the amazing things that we can do in today's society, like even the greatest things, none of those control time. And that's wild because we love control. And yet in this moment, God moved it back. And you have to think about that. What did that really mean for the earth? What did that mean in the solar system and all of that space for the earth to rotate backwards and give us more time? How did that look? What did the people that were in that time feel like? Wait a second. I just had lunch and now it looks like breakfast time. I mean, like if it was 5 or 6 hours, you're talking a good amount of time. Even how the sun looked and the power of the cosmic God that you serve. You serve a God that far exceeds what we consider and we think sometimes. And I don't want you to frame God into your time frame, into your little box, into what you think. I want you to like break out of all of that and all the limitations and believe that you serve a God that that is so powerful that he can turn the earth, rotate it, or whatever it looked like. I actually was joking with one of my friends. I was like, well, he's like this with the earth, like a basketball. And he just was like, boom, one step this way, like, no, but like how absolutely powerful. He's revealing himself to you, saying, even if I needed to, I can do that. I can shift things and I can move things, and to rest in that, to trust the Lord in that in the midst of it. And that was just a sign for Hezekiah to know that he would be healed. There was a significant problem on the whole earth that needed the earth to be moved, the time to be moved back. It was just for one man, and for one man's resolve to know that he would arise out of that sick bed and that God would do what he said he would do. That's powerful, friends. Like, he's amazingly powerful. He's able to do stuff. And the things that happen in the midst of that. And this is the thing I want you to understand. When God is doing stuff in the time frame in which he's doing it, if you dig into the story of Hezekiah, at that point of his life, he had no children. And God was speaking to him in that moment when he came back, and he's like, look, I'm going to have you do these things. And he's speaking out about the generations to come, and the generations to come hadn't existed yet. And so when God was saying, I'm going to move upon you and I'm going to bless you with these next 15 years, God was working generationally within Hezekiah's life. And in the midst of that, like if you go back quite a few years, even before King Ahaz, like it was before him, there was a prophet that prophesied that there would be a king that would come, that would reign, named Josiah. And if you go forward into the story and you keep going through years and years, that King Josiah was actually the fourth generation after Hezekiah that reigned. Actually, well, maybe the third generation that reigned, that Josiah came. And if that 15 years, it was significant. God was revealing and fulfilling things generationally. And the things that you're waiting for, the things that you're believing for, that's why I feel like we should be a group, like a people that we choose to believe that God is doing things that are generational in our lives, that as we wait upon the Lord, as we trust him in his timing, that we can know that he's working not only in our lives, but in the lives of those to come. That he's doing something significant, that you need to consider what he's doing and to hold fast and to press on. Like, honestly, Hezekiah could have been like, all right, God said that, I'm out. Like, next up, what else, Instead, he pressed in and said, oh no, God, I want more. And to believe that God can bring more, that he can do exceedingly more than you could think, to go after it and not allow time and however long it's been to rule. And that's a hard one, to surrender your control of what you think and when you think it should have happened. Really, it takes a lot of active waiting. That activity that I'm waiting for the Lord to fulfill and to do the things he's spoken, but I'm actively preparing. I'm actively walking with him. I'm actively listening. I didn't get distracted by all the things of this earth and think it's just not going to happen, but I'm participating in what he said, and to know the promises of God, to take hold of them, to say, this is what the Lord has said. This is the God in whom I serve. That as I wait on the Lord and I trust him, it says that he'll make your path straight. And you can start seeing that through Hezekiah's life, that God was orchestrating and he was making a path straight for him. And he was making a way when it didn't seem like there was a way. And he was delivering and he was redeeming and he was healing and he was making himself known, because that is the God in whom you serve. To really allow the waiting to develop humility, to releasing that space of control, to allow it to stir your heart that God is who he is and I can trust him. And if it hasn't happened yet, then it's okay. It will happen. I will see what God can do. I will contend to believe. I'll stay strong in my trust of the Lord, to trust Him, to bank into your trust. There's so many places people are waiting. Maybe you're waiting for a spouse and it hasn't happened yet and you're getting discouraged. Maybe you've been waiting for a baby and you feel discouraged because you've had loss, and in the loss you're like, I shouldn't even do it again. And it's just easy to like, well, instead of saying, God, what are you saying and what are you doing? And that you would prophesy into my situation, that you would declare the promise of God, what He said He would do. And I believe that for anyone that's barren out there, that this is a new season where God is going to bring a season of fruitfulness into your life. And I'm speaking that over you, that God would release a spirit of fruitfulness over you. And so to trust Him, to really anchor in your heart, your soul, your mind, to stop looking at the clock and the calendar and to say, I know that my God is exceedingly able. What He's done for Hezekiah, He can do for me. What he can do that I can't even begin to imagine that He could do, He can do. And so to like allow Him to be the Alpha and Omega. If you go into Revelation 22, I think it's 11, it says He's the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. He knows what your beginning is and He knows the end of it. And you can trust Him in the middle. And if there's ever a gap in that space, to grab a hold of the promise of God and say, God, you're working it all together for my good. I know you're going to take all of these things that are sitting in front of me and that you're going to orchestrate a beautiful masterpiece with it. You're going to do something that's significant and good and fruitful, and your favor is going to rest upon it because you're a good God. And I'm going to look for you to do that not only for me, but my children and my children's children and you pray that blessing into their lives because you serve a God that is exceedingly good. You serve a God that is exceedingly good, friends. But it's a matter of taking your heart and saying, I will trust in the Lord with all of my heart. I will lean not on my own understanding. In all of my ways, I'll acknowledge Him and He will make my path straight. And when you walk on those paths, you'll see the glories of God. You'll see the riches of God. You'll see the blessing of God, because He'll make a way. Even if it doesn't seem possible, He'll still make a way. And so to dig into, I just encourage you really to go into Isaiah, go into Chronicles, go into Kings, read the story. See what God's doing about time. Ask Him even more, like, show me more about how this story dealt with time in so many different facets and so many different ways, and what you're trying to show us as a people, that we might know the Lord more. Because God is able to do exceedingly good things. And I know I've said that multiple times today, but I think sometimes it's important that we rehearse that. We meditate on that. We think about it. Like, God is exceedingly able to do good things in our lives. And so, friends, take hold of the promise. Trust in the Lord. And just see that He's going to answer in due time. Do not grow weary. Be encouraged. Be bold in your faith. Develop your humility. Next week, we're going to talk about humility. We're going to really hash out what it looks like to be humble and to walk humbly before the Lord. And so to start stirring your heart towards what the Lord is stirring in our hearts. And so we just encourage you that we're here for you. If you need prayer, if you need to be uplifted, if you need to be encouraged, if you want God to speak over your life, you can reach out. We're here for you and we'll pray with you. So I bless you, my friends, that you have an amazing week ahead, that God is going to do great things. And I bless you in the name of Jesus. Bye.